Hi. Good morning, true crime friends. You caught me you caught me having my little cup of coffee. Look, I got a busy day. I need to get down out in the yard, but there are a couple things we need to talk about. We are going back to South Carolina this week. Can you believe it? Remember Murdoch? Remember when a lot of us first got together with Alec Murdoch? Well, before the Alec Murdoch case, our longtime GRI friends know that Russell LaFitte is where we've been. Remember Russell LaFitte? Russell LaFitte was a crooked banker down there in South Carolina who helped Alec Murdoch steal a bunch of money. Well, right around Thanksgiving time last year, Russell LaFitte went on trial, and I covered this trial breathlessly. Here's the thing, though. Russell LaFitte's trial was not televised. I had to read tweets all day long while, of course, doing my job, because you know I love my job. I was reading tweets all day long, and then I think at lunchtime and then maybe at the end of the day, I would be like, girl, oh my God. And I would tell you everything. And the coverage, in my opinion, was pretty good. Maybe I'll break that out into like its own playlist or something, because I think the trial went on for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. It wasn't a super long trial, but it ended right like the day before everybody got off for Thanksgiving. And so there was thought at the time that the jury might have rushed the case so they could go on home and eat their turkey. Remember, we were speculating on all the food that Russell was going to have for Thanksgiving in the prison? Well, that was months ago, doggone near a year ago. Now Russell is getting sentenced this week. Child, I am living for it. Here's the thing, though, because in federal court, there's no tapes, there's no cameras, there's no anything. You just got to keep a pen and a paper, or you could be in the overflow room tweeting it live as it happens. So I don't know that this sentencing is going to be long, but I will be covering it breathlessly because I'm dying to know what kind of time he's going to get. Because Russell, not only was he up to some shenanigans before he got arrested, convicted, whatever, right before the trial happened, he put out a video that they were calling Russell TV, where now the prosecution is saying he was trying to influence the jury. And was he trying to influence the jury? Yeah. He absolutely was. He was like, oh, shucks. I'm just a good old boy, and I was just trying to help the people in my community like I love to do. Russell, you stealing $50,000 from a couple of orphans to build a pole in your backyard, that was not helping the community, my dude. It was not. And then he was like, I'm on 2 ankle monitors. I can't go see my son play baseball or softball or some sort of sports ball thing. And the judge was like, yeah, okay, I understand, but you're going to stay on them monitors. He wanted everybody to feel sorry for him for such a good guy he was. Turns out he was a scumbag and a lying sack of sugar. And Emily Limehouse down there in South Carolina, the federal prosecutor's office or whatever, she proved it. But there was something hinky going on with that jury. Now, did everything go off the way it was supposed to? Yes, everything went off the way it was supposed to. But during jury deliberations, one of the jurors sent a note to the judge saying that she was being bullied. Or we don't know if it was a man or a woman. They were being bullied. They were being pressured. They were getting PTSD from the treatment they were receiving on the jury. What was y'all doing back there in the jury room? So ultimately, the judge went and talked to them, or they came in. There was a conversation, and that juror left. As soon as that juror left, the jury had a verdict like that. So I'm like, was that one person trying to hang the jury, but then couldn't stand the heat? Now, if you listen to this trial or watch this trial, there was a giant mountain of evidence against old Russell. So would he have been convicted anyway? Yeah. Absolutely. But this one person, turns out, might have been being a pain in the neck. And so they got rid of them. And so fans of Russell LaFitte, which, P.S., who's his fan? But fans of Russell LaFitte are like, it was something happening with that jury. I don't know what was going on. So will Russell get a new trial? Will Russell be sentenced? We will find out. At the time of the trial, everybody was saying, like, he's going to be sentenced to 100 years, 200 years. Y'all calm down. This is the federal system, and this was a financial crime. Was it terrible? Yes. Were people affected by it? Absolutely. But nobody died. It dismantled like the trust in the banking system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's still the federal system. Russell been home all this time. Russell been sitting at his house. Yes, with 2 ankle monitors, but he's still been sitting at his house. Do you think Alex Murdoch was sitting at his house? No, he was not. So Russell's been home for like a year and change, waiting for this thing to come to trial. Then it came to trial. He was convicted very quickly. Even given the jury disturbance, he was convicted very quickly. And he's been home since his conviction, since November, since Thanksgiving. It's doggone near fall again. So, Russell Boo Boo, you should consider yourself lucky. Now, what kind of sentence is he facing? He had done a plea deal that would give him like 4 or 5 years behind bars. And then he reneged on his plea deal. He stopped cooperating. He wouldn't answer questions. Oh, Russell was trying to save his behind. Well, he fried himself. Russell Boo, you chose the wrong team. And so instead of just doing 4 or 5 years, likely he'll do 10 or 11 years. Russell, I'm not that good at math. Turns out you as a banker also not that good at math. But 10, 11 years is way longer than 4 or 5 years. And in the federal system, if they say you have to do 4 years, you got to do every day of that 4 years. If they say 10 years, my dude, you about to be gone for a decade. Russell is in his 50s. He'll get out in his 60s. That's enough time to still make a good life for himself, assuming that people will. I mean, listen, Russell's version of a good life and my version of a good life, probably 2 very different things. My version of a good life, living peacefully and quietly in the suburbs where people don't bother me and I don't bother them. That is the good life. Russell's version of a good life. Oh, also, my good life includes not being in prison. Russell, his version of a good life probably means I have a big house, I have an outdoor kitchen, I go to the fancy parties, everybody loves me. Russell Boo Boo, you're not gonna have no good life. I'm just letting you know, you are a social pariah. So will your children and your wife likely be, and your mama and your daddy, all of them, because it was not just Russell LaFitte who worked at the bank. Russell LaFitte's family owned the bank. And so after this happened, I have to do some research and see whatever happened. His sister was covering up his crimes. His father was covering up his crimes. They were not charged criminally, but the board of the bank back at the time, there was word that they were going to kick the Russell LaFitte family, all the LaFittes, out of the banking business. And so they were going to lose this bank that has started by their family, that had been held in their family for years and years and years and years. Very similar to the Alex Murdaugh situation. Alec messed up and his family name got taken off the law firm. The LaFittes had all these branches or whatever all over. Looks like all of a sudden they might not be in the banking business anymore. The good news is most of them are old. So Russell's generation, okay, everybody gonna talk be shady about you. You should expect that when you're stealing from orphans. But for Russell's kids or whatever, y'all gonna have to actually go out here and work hard and build a fortune for yourself. So good luck on your project. Anyway, in addition to Russell LaFitte, there's some chatter about the Alex Murdaugh jury. Remember the egg lady? The lady that was like running her mouth all over town about the case? And she was like, I didn't run my mouth that much, Judge Newman. Listen, everybody loves Judge Clifton Newman. And if you run afoul of Judge Newman, we don't like you. I don't care what the reason was. I don't care if it was accidentally. I am not your fan. So if you made Judge Newman upset, which does Judge Newman even have the ability to get upset? Now, he kicked this lady off the jury in the nicest possible way. Oh, he was polite. And he was like, did you leave anything in the jury room? And she was like, just a dozen eggs. And everybody in the thing laughed, in the courtroom laughed. And he was like, go on, get her eggs and then send her on her merry way. So word is coming down now that lady would have hung the jury. Now, at the time, she was saying, no, I was of one accord with the jury, and I think they made the right decision. Now it's coming out that she was not convinced of Russell's guilt, of Alex's guilt, and she would have hung that jury. Is this the jury tampering that Alex Murdaugh was so famous for? Also, Miss Becky, who was down there, the court clerk, Miss Becky coming out with a book. Okay, Miss Becky, what you got to say? She's like, I have been running trials for many, many years. By running trials, she means like making sure everybody had lunch and that the egg lady got her eggs. She wasn't like the judge or nothing. But Miss Becky did run the courthouse. It's like, if the CEO doesn't come to work, some decisions might not get made for that day. But if the secretary don't come to work, the whole company might shut down. Miss Becky was effectively the secretary in this situation because she knows everybody. She knows what's happening. She got a hand in every pot. She knows what's what. Miss Becky got close to the Murdoch juror, and she is out here with her new book spilling all kinds of inside tea. Behind the Curtain of Justice, something like that, by Becky Hill. I have to go look for it on Amazon. Lord, I hope it's an audio book, because I don't have time to sit down and read nothing. But Becky Hill's new book, I think it comes out this week. And she says, number one, that the jury was very close, very chummy, all of one accord, including the egg lady. Was she a part of that? I need to know that. Miss Becky says that every morning they started the day with prayer, signs that you're below the Mason-Dixon line, because that would not happen up here with all these Yankees. And I'm not talking about Yankees who support the sports ball team. I'm talking about all these Northerners. What you're not going to do is start nothing with a word of prayer, because we don't roll like that. Now, you could pray silently to yourself. You can sit there and have a quiet meditation moment. But the whole religion thing, child, it gets contentious up in these parts. So you just like, okay, you can talk to Jesus, and you can talk to Allah, and you can talk to the sun, whatever. Go hug a tree, whatever you need to do. Everything is fine with us. You need to pray to Mecca at 5 o'clock. We're going to take a break in this court at 5 o'clock, whatever it is. Anyway, all that to say, I thought that was very interesting that she said they were like a family and they really cared about each other. And she said that she never talked to them about the case, but she knew that whatever verdict they would come to, it would happen quickly because they were of one accord. Really? Even the egg lady? And Miss Becky says that as soon as they went to Moselle and they saw how everything was laid out, they was like, oh, okay, we got this. Can we go back there? We don't have to hear no closing statement. We good. We fully understand. The other thing that we had not realized is that Alec Murdoch picked that jury. I did not know that until today. Mr. Alec, because he's an attorney, and I guess that based on South Carolina law, that the defendant has the ability to be an active part of jury selection. If you will recall, that jury was not voir dired in front of anybody. They did that behind closed doors, and then they started the trial. Turns out, on the defense side, Alec Murdoch picked his own jury. Now, you know Alec. He thought he knew, so he's like, listen, I'm going to pick this one and this one and this one, and they going to let me off. I wonder if he knew that egg lady personally. But, he picked the jury that hung him. So, boo-boo, you cannot say that was not fair because you picked them people. Now, the fact that they hung you, that's just proof that the prosecutors had the case. I mean, they had all the evidence. They had everything they needed to send you behind to the big house forever, which is where you are now, doing double life. Finally, in this is like the all South Carolina. Wait, there's two more South Carolina things that were interesting to me this week. One, the Rosebud murder case. Will Folks. I have issues with Will Folks. And let me start from the beginning. Will Folks is the founding editor or whatever of Fitz News. Fitz News first started investigating the Murdoch case when their little young reporter, little cub reporter, Miss Mandy Matney, hang on, my throat's getting dry. I got coffee and tea this morning. I got toffee. When a Fitz News reporter, young Mandy Murdoch, got on this case and started following it doggedly. Her boss, Will Folks, was like, that sounds good, go with it. When the case started getting a lot of traction, he was like, okay, you can work exclusively on the Murdoch situation, and I will keep you on as an employee, because Mandy's coverage was starting to get wide coverage, and it was bringing a lot of eyes to Fitz News. So it was in Will Folks' best interest to be like, yeah, girl, come on, bring that cash on in here. Then Mandy started her own little side project called the Murdoch Murders podcast. But every single time, if you go back to those early tapes, those early podcasts, every single time she's like, I work for Fitz News. I am Mandy Matney at Fitz News. Follow Fitz News. We're getting news from Fitz News. We love Fitz News. She talked about Fitz News and Will Folks endlessly. Somewhere along the line, they had a separation. Now, I do a whole tape. I keep calling it tape, mostly because I'm old. I'll have to dig it out and find it. But I document exactly why Will and Mandy had a falling out. And it was kind of public, and it was kind of scandalous at the time it happened. But suffice to say, Mandy started one podcast by saying, from now on, we are no longer associated with Fitz News. We have nothing to do with them. We don't use them for sources. She was very adamant that she was far apart from Fitz News. And I was like, well, I need to know everything, because you know I'm here for the gossip and the rumor and the innuendo. So the short version of the story is Mandy was reporting on Stephen Smith's family and all of these people. Well, Stephen has a sister, right? Stephen's sister has a child. She had a child before she got married. And then after she had this child, sometime later, she got married. Girl, I understand that life because that is exactly what happened to me. She did not marry that baby's daddy. Fine, her business. But it was kept under wraps who the biological father of Stephen's niece was. Well, Will Folks, in investigating the whole Murdoch scandal, revealed in his newspaper who the father of the baby was. Did it have anything to do with the case? No, not at all. Did it harm the family? Were they very upset? Because now this little girl, she wasn't there. I mean, she was there when she was born, but she don't remember it. She had no living memory of anybody being her father other than the man her mother married. And now Will Folks is up here on the news talking about like, oh yeah, that ain't her. We know who the real daddy is. And I was like, oh, Will. So Will spilled it out here all in the news that Greg Alexander, the crooked sheriff down there in South Carolina, is the baby's daddy. And I don't know if it was a scandal because the girl didn't know. I don't know if it was a scandal because the family wasn't talking about it, because the man is black and the girl is white. Like, I don't know why this was like a big scandal, but in the family, that's something they had tried to keep under wraps for a very long time. And they were successful in keeping this little girl in the dark about who her biological father is. But now everybody in the county knows, the crooked sheriff is Stephen's niece baby daddy. So, Stephen Smith's mom, Sandy Smith, and Mandy Matney are like this. Tight. And so Sandy was very upset, which made Mandy very upset. And Mandy called and talked to Will about it because Mandy's thing is, this has nothing to do with the story. And Will was like, it's news and I'm reporting it. And they had a little falling out and they do not speak. And every chance he gets, Will Folks throw shade at Mandy Matney. Now, if you don't know the whole story and the backstory between the two, then you would just be like, okay, they don't speak, whatever. But every time he opens his mouth to talk about the Murdoch case, he finds a way to throw shade at Mandy Matney. Mostly because he feels like when Mandy blew up and got way bigger than Will, that I think Will a little bit jealous, just a little. He got a little bit of the jelly, just a little bit of the jelly, because Will was a big name in South Carolina. Mandy became a big name globally, and the podcast that she started while working for him, his name is not on it. He is not mentioned. They got a TV show coming out about Mandy. Mandy's getting all these documentaries and national coverage, and everybody knows Mandy Matney. And some people know Will Folks. Will Folks is a name in South Carolina. Mandy Matney is a name around the globe, thanks to the Murdoch case. Now, I can see where Will might be feeling some kind of way like, wait, I paid you. I gave you space and room, and I supported you doing this. Now, you mad at me? What? But Will's a little bit reckless. He's a little bit reckless with his mouth. And I don't like that about him. But I also totally relate because I am more than a little bit reckless with my mouth. And sometimes things happen and you make people mad and they don't speak to you ever again. That is the price you pay for being a big mouth. Trust and believe. I know that very well. There are plenty of people in my real regular life who are not big Kathy fans. And you know what I give them? The gift of their feelings. I'm going to give you the gift of you going over there and dealing with your feelings and leaving me alone. Now, if I feel like I was in the wrong, I will 100% apologize and admit my wrongdoing. But if I feel like that's a you problem, child, well, then that is just a you problem. That ain't got nothing to do with me. And I just keep on carrying on. So Miss Mandy has kept on carrying on. And Will Folks has been over here in his feelings. Speaking of Will Folks, Will Folks reported this story. It pains me to discuss Will Folks because I cannot decide if he's a good guy or a scumbag or somewhere in the middle. I think he's probably somewhere in the middle. But when Will comes with the good, now I'm going to talk about it. I don't care who gives me the information, if it's valid and I can back it up most of the time, or if it's very interesting or might be good for my gossip channel, child, I'm going to talk about it because that's how we roll around here. Last but certainly not least, Will Folks gave a report on a prayer breakfast this week. And I was like, why do I care about a South Carolina prayer breakfast? This is why I care about the South Carolina prayer breakfast. So this lady, whose name escapes me, who's supposed to be some sort of like up and coming presidential candidate in South Carolina, I honestly could not care less because politics are not my deal. But this lady is just like, I'm here at the prayer breakfast this week, and all the Republicans are like, yay, we like her. She's like, I was almost late because I was home in bed with my fiance, and my fiance, I was like, nah, babe, I gotta go. And my fiance was pulling me back, and I was telling him, no, later, I gotta get to the prayer breakfast. You could do, it's time for that later. And then she went on talking about whatever. And I'm like, oh, in the genteel South, you up here talking about you leaving your fiance with the blue ball? Like, we can do, that's the thing? Okay. I had not realized that's what we was doing among the conservative types at the prayer breakfast. You know what's not a topic of conversation at the prayer breakfast? Premarital sex. It should not be a topic of conversation at the prayer breakfast. And everybody was like giggling and laughing at the same time. They're like, did this heifer just say she was getting it in with her fiance? Fiance, meaning they are not married. Sleeping in the same bed, meaning they just committing sin. And now she up here at the prayer breakfast with people who presumably pray, talk about her sin? Okay, ma'am, we're going to need you to not discuss the blue balls at the prayer breakfast. So that became a topic of conversation, apparently, in South Carolina Republican politics or local politics or whatever. Will this harm this lady's political career? Child, I don't know. I really don't even care. I just think it's funny that she stood up essentially in church and talked about giving her fiance the stiff arm. And then she went on to say, girl, I was with you till you said this. I just told him we could do that later, ma'am. Of course you will, because that's how that works. But you don't need to say that in front of your grandma and them. Like, grandma, I was going to drop to my knees and pray in front of him, but I told him, I would let him do third entry stuff later because I couldn't do it. Ma'am, these are not conversations that you have in church for your mom and them. You can't do it. You cannot do it. Wait, I thought that was the last story, but then I remembered there is one other thing. What is the case? The Rosebud Murder case. That will, folks. Every time I'm out, he drags me back in with a nice juicy case. So listen. There is a new podcast called Fitz News Reports, Fitz News, something. It's a Fitz News podcast about the Rosebud murder case. Immediately on the heels of the Alec Murdaugh case, Will Folks and Fitz News were trying to get us to care about this nasty behind woman down in South Carolina who was a vet tech. Everybody was like, she's lovely and she's wonderful and everybody loves her. Oh, she's delightful and she's great with the animals. And then she was brutally murdered in her own home. So there we have a sympathetic murder victim, and it was presumed that her ex-husband, her ex-boyfriend or whatever, I think it's her ex-husband, had murdered her. She's a young woman who was married to a man twice her age, and they have a child who's like 9 or 10, something. I think the child's under 10 years old. And so everyone was like, oh, this poor single mother was murdered by the terrible baby daddy, her ex-husband. Seemed like a pretty open and shut case, but her body was discovered with rose petals sprinkled all around it. And the child's father was out of the country at the time of the murder. So it's like, okay, we can prove he was out of the country. We don't know why there are rose petals. Something weird is happening here. Then a mountain of evidence, a literal mountain of evidence develops about a friend of the baby daddy. The baby daddy was very good friends with a concert pianist, who cleaned his house. I clean my house. My children clean my house. Sometimes a housekeeper cleans my house. You know what my housekeeper is not? Also a concert pianist. But this dude was a concert pianist, and he was about to go on some cruise as the entertainer, playing concert piano someplace over in Europe as a profession. Okay. And he's like highly proficient, a big Beethoven dude. Everybody, I wonder if it was Cunard Cruise Lines, because that sounds like somebody they would hire. Anyway, this concert pianist, there's all this evidence, big mountain of evidence that he murdered this lady because he's friends with her ex-husband. Okay, fine. It's weird that it's a concert pianist. Initially, when Will Folks brought us this story, he was trying to take it from the angle of, oh, this poor single mom got murdered. But then we found out terrible things about her and we were like, we don't care. Now he's taking it from the angle of, why did this concert pianist murder this lady? I mean, in truth, it's pretty obvious. The concert pianist became friends with a guy over their love of music. The guy was like, yo, I'm about to leave the country. My ex is terrible. Can you murder her? And the dude was like, is there extra money in it? And does she have a piano I could play? And the baby daddy must have said yes. So he went to her house and murdered this lady. And there's a whole bunch of videotape. You see all like the cameras on the highways or whatever of him driving there. And then you see him going in the house. Then you see him leaving and riding a bicycle away. Cut and dry. Why are we still talking about this case? This is why we're still talking about this case. Turns out during the course of investigating this poor single mom, other evidence has come to light that the poor single mom was not a good person. She was actually a terrible person and was abusing her child and allowing her new boyfriend to abuse her child. They were caught in possession of what they call CSAM. That is child intimately abuse material. CSAM. This lady was a Pedialyte. And her boyfriend, her new boyfriend, was a Pedialyte. And they were doing things to this child. And it's like, that's horrible. Horrible. In addition to them doing terrible things to this woman's child, there is another child that they were doing terrible things with. And the boyfriend who's like, oh, my fiance is dead. We were Pedialytes together. Okay. Turns out this lovely vet tech might have also been doing things to the animals. Listen, what have y'all done to the fluffy bunnies and the kitties? I do not know. Why do we know this about these people? You know what? I wish you had not told me. So I have an entire playlist called the Rosebud Murder Case, and I do not know if I will follow this podcast. The new podcast is coming out about the Rosebud Murder Case. If you want to know the truth, I probably will, because I'm nosy. I think this lady is terrible. Oh, and the situation with the animals is referred to as buggery. Don't Google it, because there's not enough brain bleach in the world. But I didn't Google it. I'm taking other people's word for it, because I don't need to see all that. No, thank you. So this dude was a Pedialyte and a bugger. Child, I don't like them. I have prejudged them. I am not on the jury. I am not a judge. I'm telling you, they're horrible human beings I just decided that based on what I heard about them. And this pianist, yeah, he killed that girl. Okay. And maybe that is a public service homicide. To me, I do not. We here at Gossip Rumor and Innuendo, we do not advocate murder. But sometimes a public service homicide happens, and what you want us to do about it? I mean, I'm not the police, and I don't know that I'm going to be at the rally saying free whatever his name is. Because, it's all terrible. It's all terrible. But I'm nosy, so I'm very likely to follow it. I'm just letting you know. So when you're not surprised that the Rosebud feed starts to grow again, go on back and watch I think it's only like 2 or 3 episodes on there right now. Go on back and watch the first 2 or 3 if you want to get caught up, or get the name of the podcast. I'll find it and I'll put it down in the comments below, because I don't remember it. I don't even remember what I said at the beginning of this video, if you want to know the truth. You know what I should have said is like and subscribe. It's 28 minutes in, and I imagine if you this far in, you probably like and you probably have already subscribed. But maybe I should just make like a little like and subscribe thing and drop it at the beginning, because child, my memory is bad. It's just bad. Anyway, thank you for being here with me on a Sunday morning, my true crime friends. Our channel is growing by leaps and bounds. It seems crazy to me. Not that long ago, it was just like 200 of us sitting here having a chitty chat about absolutely nothing. And now it's a whole bunch of us sitting here having a little chitty chat about absolutely nothing. Anyway, You go out and have a great Sunday. I'm going to get out into the yard. I'm going to see how many hundreds of hours it takes this video to upload, because anything over 20 minutes, it might be tonight until it's uploaded. Fingers crossed. All right, y'all. Have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.